The silent follower. Emily had always been a night owl. Her job at the late-night diner suited her perfectly, allowing her to work during the quiet hours when the world seemed to sleep. One particularly slow night, she decided to take a different route home, a shortcut through an old abandoned park she had always avoided. The park was known for its eerie atmosphere and the strange stories locals whispered about it. As she walked through the park, the tall, gnarled trees cast long, twisted shadows under the dim streetlights. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She quickened her pace, her footsteps echoing in the empty park. Suddenly, she heard a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. "Emily." She froze, her heart pounding. There was no one around. She told herself it was just her imagination and continued walking, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. The next day, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the park. She mentioned it to her friend Sarah, who worked with her at the diner. Sarah's face turned pale. "Emily, you shouldn't go through that park. There are stories. People say there's something or someone that follows you if you walk through there at night." Emily laughed it off but couldn't ignore the chill running down her spine. That night, she decided to take the long way home after her shift. She kept glancing over her shoulder as she walked, half expecting to see someone there. But the streets were empty. When she finally reached her apartment, she felt a wave of relief. She locked the door behind her and went straight to bed. As she drifted off to sleep, she heard a whisper. "Emily." She sat up, her heart racing. The room was dark, but she could sense a presence. She reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight, sweeping the beam around the room. She told herself nothing. It was just her mind playing tricks on her, and eventually she fell into a restless sleep. Over the next few days, the whispers became more frequent. Emily started seeing fleeting shadows in the corners of her vision, always just out of reach. She confided in Sarah again, who suggested they visit an older woman known for her knowledge of the paranormal. The older woman listened to Emily's story with a grave expression. "You have been marked," she said. "The spirit in the park is a restless soul, bound to follow those who enter its domain after dark. It feeds on fear and will not stop until it consumes you." Emily felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. "How do I stop it?" she asked. The older woman handed her a small, worn amulet. "Wear this at all times. It will protect you. And you must go back to the park and confront the spirit. Only then will you be free." That night, armed with the amulet, Emily returned to the park. As she walked deeper into the park's heart, the shadows seemed to reach out for her. She could feel the spirit's presence growing stronger. She stopped in the middle of a clearing and said, "I'm not afraid of you." The air turned icy, and a figure began to materialize before her. It was a woman, her face twisted in sorrow and anger. "Why do you follow me?" Emily demanded. The spirit's voice was a haunting whisper. "I was wronged. I cannot rest." Emily held up the amulet. "I will help you find peace." The spirit stared at the amulet, then back at Emily. Slowly, the anger in her eyes faded, replaced by a look of sadness. "Thank you," she whispered, and then she was gone. The park breathed a sigh of relief, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. Emily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew the spirit was finally at peace. From that night on, Emily never heard the whispers again. She continued to take the long way home, but the park no longer held any fear for her. She had faced her silent follower and emerged victorious.